Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the January 27th, 2025 Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners, and we have two members of the FAA here, so they will not open their meeting. It's not a quorum. First order of business, this meeting is being recorded, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. First on the agenda is approval of minutes from 1:13:25 and 1:21:25. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the minutes as written for 1:13:25.
Motion by Mr. Landry.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions, concerns, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to be heard tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I also make a motion to accept the minutes for 1:21:25 as written.
Oh, I thought we did a motion together, because I said,
No.
okay. Motion made and seconded. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to be heard tonight that does not require a vote? Hi, Joan.
Hi. I would like to know what's going on with Spectrum.
Nobody would.
We had an outage Thursday morning, all morning. We had an outage all afternoon, most of the afternoon today. And I got my last bill, and they're going up $10 next month. I just wanted to know if anybody knew what's going on.
Yeah. Do we have any update?
We didn't receive any notice of an increase recently.
Well, we can look into that and have somebody report back at the next meeting, find out what's going on. I know a lot of people complain about Spectrum, more than usual, I should say.
And I didn't have any phone either, so,
Also, you lost everything.
yeah.
Well, maybe-
Olivia or I will
Yeah, look
call
into it.
our representative and figure out what's up.
All right. I'm going to recognize State Representative John Marcy's here. He wants to give a brief little legislative update on what's going on for the state and what's going on for Dudley.
I sit next to you, John. Hi, Robin. Hi, Mr. Chairman, board members, town administrator. I'm also joined by Senator Fatman's aide, Amanda Copeland, who's here with me tonight. Just a quick update. As we wrap up January, we just spent the last several weeks putting in all the bills that have been filed for the current legislative session. So there's a 3-week period where everything gets put in that's guaranteed a hearing. So that's happening. The governor's released her budget, which, if you've gone through that yet, there's depending on how you look at the numbers, an increase over last year of 2.6%, but more like 7+ if you look at it a different way. So we're waiting to get into the nuts and bolts of that as we get into budget season, which is coming up quickly. So we're still going through committee assignments and all that stuff. So we should know all that stuff soon.
Any update on the bond bill?
On the bond bill for,
The funding for the Eagle, was it Eagle Drive funding that was in that, or the bridge? No, the bridge.
oh, the bridge. So the bridge is federal money. That's in March and April. There'll be something around that.
Okay.
I did mention that to Congressman Neal when I was in Southbridge a couple weeks ago.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions for me, guys? Or?
Any questions for the state rep?
Just, was there a big increase through the chair in Chapter 90? I heard on the media this morning.
I'm more concerned about what the House does than what the governor says. There's cuts across a lot of things, like around mental health services and some closures of some key facilities around the state. So getting a lot of email and concern about that. So it's a zero-sum game, as you know, right? There's supposedly going to be a supplemental budget that we will talk about very soon for this current fiscal year.
And then one more, Mr. Chairman. Is there some bipartisan support now to amend that right to shelter law, or?
There seems to be. The governor seems to be more open to a lot of the suggestions that were been made the last couple of years. It all comes down to House leadership, making that. They've asked several questions to the governor, asking to get more specific on what that means. because it all turns into dollars no matter what you do, right? So there's the process and then how much it's gonna cost. So these are things that are coming up very soon, but yes from the governor, it seems, but she's gotta get more detailed. Yes from some of the House, no from a lot of the House.
Okay, thank you.
Very interesting. Anybody have any questions for the state rep? Thanks.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else with the citizens' comments? Hearing none. Next up, appointments. William LePage, Assistant Building Inspector, term to expire 1/27/2026. How are you doing, Bill?
Good evening, Board.
Good to see you again.
Good evening.
I know we lost you there for a while. You were gone, now you're back.
Yeah. I moved to Florida for a few years.
Yeah, now you're back. So, Mr. Administrator, this is the, to assist with Nelson when Nelson's unavailable?
That's,
Or with anything, actually, right?
yeah, Jeff Murray is unable to be reappointed at this time, so Bill, who we all know, has stepped forward and offered to take on that role, and he has experience, I know, working in Worcester for the building department and so forth. He's properly credentialed, and I think he'd be a great backup for Nelson, particularly with larger projects that may be coming down the pike.
So, Bill, you were actually building commissioner?
In Sturbridge.
If you have that, you have the.
Yeah, I was covering for Nelson in Sturbridge when he was still there, and when he retired, I took over his position in Sturbridge, so I'm there full-time now.
Oh, good. Excellent. Any questions for Mr. LePage? Hearing none. Call the matter to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint William LePage, Assistant Building Inspector, term to expire 1/27/2026.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gannevett, second by Mr. Landry. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Next up, public business. Stevens Mill Development, we have a public project update, and I think I just saw the team come in. Mr. Gumpert, they can all come up if they want, but, and I know they like to put you up here.
Yeah, they do.
So if you guys want the 3 seats there, just pull the mics over and just identify yourselves after you sit.
Great, thank you.
Oh, by now, should be no introductions needed.
I'm John Gumpert. I'm with Camden Partners out of Atlanta, one of the developers for the Stevens Mill.
Ben Johnson with Weddle Real Estate Investments. We're a consultant with John on the Stevens Mill project.
I'm Andrew Weddle, work for myself, Weddle Real Estate Investments. Been working with John on this project for about 4 or 5 years.
Excellent. So how do you want to handle this, Mr. Administrator? Let them just do this.
I'd like to just ask them if they'd give a public update in terms of construction and timelines and where we stand now and what we can look forward to in the future.
Thank you. So since we were last in front of you, we have made our way through the National Park Service over the last 2 years, amending the plans to comply with their requirements. And I think we're about done with that. So the biggest update is we've made our way through that. We have changed the parking layouts a little bit to comply with the conservation areas to the site. I feel like we're done with that. And now we're just working our way through our financing on the project. Having, gotten through really the Park Service is the biggest challenge, getting them happy. We're now at a point where we can finalize our costs as we explore the different financing options, and we've kind of narrowed down to one path on that. We're not there, but we're close. We have secured a grant to stabilize the building, so we're going to be putting a new roof on the main part of the mill, probably starting in 2 months or so. We have cleaned out a big portion of the mill. As you know, it was a flea market at one point. We've removed all the flea market debris, but for one floor. We're going to start, in addition to the roof, doing some stabilization where some of the moisture damage had gotten into the building. We're going to cure that, fix that, and that's our short-term over the next 6 months, we hope to do all that stuff. And then my hope is, at that point, we'll have a clear direction on financing and can start moving towards that.
So the project, everyone wants to know, can we get like a brief overview, units, sizes?
Units really haven't changed. It's 159 units, predominantly studio, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom, no 3-bedrooms.
None at all now?
None.
Okay.
I think that's right.
That's right.
Originally it was a component for a few, right?
Not really. You have to take what the building will give you, and the building is not that wide. It just doesn't lend itself to 3-bedroom units, and 3-bedroom units aren't really the market that we're looking for. As we've said in previous updates, it's not really a family project. It's more for young singles as well as older folks tend to populate our projects. So, for example, there's no playground associated with the project. There could be a tap room. There will certainly be a river walk attached to it. There will be a workout center. We will have an event center that we typically hold weddings at, or birthdays, things like that. Bring the community into the development. The more we can bring the community into the development, the more notoriety we get for the development, and it fills the project up. So, we're looking forward to that. But as far as the design of it hadn't changed much. We're sticking with where we were.
Excellent.
We have made a number of changes, really at the request of the Park Service, but we've incorporated those things in, and we're still moving forward on that. We're excited.
Yeah.
I know it takes a long time, but that's our plan. As I tell everybody, we don't have a plan B. So we are getting this done. Interest rate, environment, anything else that shows up, we're used to it. We'll figure out a way around that.
Excellent. Board members, questions? Mr. Administrator?
Can you, through the chair, John or Andrew or whomever, could you speak a little bit to any environmental concerns? Because we get a lot of questions about that.
And in this type of development, we're used to running into all kinds of environmental concerns, especially an old factory. If this is more of a textile mill, but as for factories, we have all kinds of issues. This mill is relatively clean. Certainly we have asbestos. Certainly we have lead paint. That's almost a building component. It's not really considered environmental. So we may have a buried tank that we couldn't get to investigate when the small appendage roof collapsed. We've since taken that roof off so we can get to it. But, as these mills go, this one has very little environmental concerns tied to it. So,
I would think when Toltec went in there, right? Wasn't it Toltec that was there after Stevens?
Yeah.
They must have did some kind of modernization and cleanup too, probably.
they probably did, but we've had the building checked top to bottom.
Right.
And have not found anything other than the normal asbestos and lead paint. And we just don't consider that much of a big deal.
Excellent. Good.
I'm good.
Anybody from the public like to come up? All we do is come to the podium, identify yourself. You don't have to say, I live at like number 1 street, and just say, I'm so-and-so Dudley resident. If you want to come up and speak or ask questions. Going once? I guess no one's got questions. So, can we just dispel some myths to people? The state rep talked about the migrant housing crisis. Your place is going to be upscale, mid to upscale.
It's market rate housing.
Right, and your financing package doesn't allow, just a component that we talked about for
Yes.
affordable Dudley residents.
That's true. Now,
First.
it is a market rate development, so it's made for, it's not, we were talking about earlier today, a lot of folks do affordable housing. They do low-income housing. Makes it easy to do because you get tax credits for that. We're not doing that.
Right.
We don't have affordable tax credits. So it's a market rate deal.
Right, that's been up front right along.
Yeah.
Hasn't been a component.
Now, we're not going to hide anything from anybody. We're going to show you exactly what we're going to do. It's easy to see. I was going to mention that what we typically do is we have walkthroughs for the public to come look at it at different various stages of development. So we really do invite the public to come in and see what it is we're doing.
But not yet.
Yeah, not yet, though.
Well, you can, it's kind of at your own risk now. We don't have the property quite as secure as we might like to.
But we have a lovely security man that will meet you if
Yeah.
You can do a
show
walk
up
by,
now.
not a walk through. Somebody did get up in the back.
Good evening. Hi, my name's Carol Cook, and I live right by the mill. And we do have a lot of concerns about the type of people who are going to buy these places. Dudley isn't a very expensive community, and just wondering if it's going to turn out to be like Southbridge, the AO, or Putnam, that ends up low income because people don't come. Who's going to buy these places? Who's going to, and we're worried that we're going to get very bad people that are going to end up at the end. You're going to do low income, and then it's going to lower our houses, which are right there. Have you thought about that? We're right across the street, and everybody's talking, and it's like, it's a big concern that it's going to lower the prices of our houses. We're going to have trashy people coming up to the pond. We live on the water, and they're going to ruin our lives.
Okay, so I can answer that. Probably the best thing to do is go look at our other developments that we have and talk to any of the other towns that we've done them in. As far as is it going to become a low-income project? Our lenders aren't going to let us do that.
Right.
On another project, the town was concerned because we built in a college town that we were going to have student housing, And the town was totally concerned that this is really a student housing project. You're camouflaging it as a market rate deal, but it's really going to be student housing. And we said, look, our lenders don't allow us to do that. We have to do what we say we're going to do. So if we were going to become a low-income project, you would get, the only way you could make that work would be to get low-income tax credits and develop it as such. So we are very much expecting it to be the highest rent in the area, not the lowest rent. And that's the product that we're building. And you can look at any of our current projects that we're doing or have done and see the level of finish. And our level of finish will be equal here. So I do understand, people get concerned if we say we're going to do FHA financing, that somehow connotates low income. It does not. So we will transition into FHA financing. It's 40-year low leverage financing, but it absolutely is not affordable or low income.
So I think it's a very good question. We've heard this question in many of the communities. I don't think I've ever worked on a project, John, maybe you have, that hasn't buoyed the home values.
Yeah.
If I gave you some statistics, it's not important because these are different communities. This is your community. But I can tell you that Dudley, by definition, you're not Boston. You're not going to push the rents to a ridiculous level. Mm-hmm. But because it's new construction and there's 159 units, it's very different housing for this community. So we expect the profile to be young professionals or older seniors, empty nesters. Maybe some Nichols students might come down, but I don't know. It's not next to campus. But they will be of means, but not above the norm, but they will probably look like residents that
Right, but how long are you going to wait before, if those apartments don't fill, you're losing money.
Okay, so we have demand studies that we use that tell us we can fill the units. So it's not as big a guess as you might think. And I don't want you to worry about, as quick as this doesn't work, they're going to switch to low income.
Right. I mean, it's not only just that. It's like like right now, just what you guys have done to ruin the roads and the traffic in the morning and our lives. It's been crazy for us who live right around there to get out of our houses and all the traffic. That's just now, and it's going to continue. Our roads right now, just to get by Dunkin' Donuts, our cars are bumping and it's dipping, and the roads are a mess. And it's made a disaster.
Carol, that wasn't them. That was the town, and that was National Grid.
Right, but it was all because of the mill, though, because of what they're gonna do, because they have to hook into the septic, right?
Well,
No.
both Johns can explain it better than me, but I know it was grant funded, and George is here too. He can talk about what they did with water over there. But yeah, they updated the infrastructure too, yeah.
Right, right. So there's all these things, we're all just worried about all this stuff, because you've kind of come in and like, we pay the taxes for this place, and we pay, and we have nice houses, and now we have to live in this like kind of sub area waiting to see what's going to happen and see, when these things people in Dudley don't pay high rent. And when they get these apartments, it's going to kind of be like, how long are you going to wait? Go look at Southbridge. We're just,
But again,
Southbridge, Webster, Dudley. We're not Boston, we're not Marlboro, we're not.
No, but we're
and
not
that's our
charging,
concern.
we're not charging Boston rents, but I will tell you, we have demand studies that look at all that. For us to get a loan, we've got to have those demand studies, and those demand studies have to be by third-party analysts that give us, that predict the lease rate and predict the rents that we'll get. So that's what we base all our financing on. And it will be busy and hectic when we're redoing the mill.
Right.
When we're in there doing it, we will have plenty of people working. It will be just that. But at the end of the day, you'll have an asset that you'll be happy to be next to, not a vacant building that has vagrants and things like that. So you're going to be pleased with the end product. And I don't have to go any further than any of the other projects we're doing, because we have such a great track record. This is such a great program that it really works out well. So we will not be lowering the standards in the neighborhood. We'll be raising the standards in the neighborhood. And it's fun to watch. And the good news is, this isn't our first one. You can go look at other ones we've done.
Right.
As I tell most people, go talk to the last town and see what they say. And they will say good things. And we've watched, I've had plenty of projects that I've built, and the lenders will say, well, are you going to put a police precinct in the project? Like, no, we're not putting a police precinct in the project. At the end of the development, it's great to walk and look at. So I'm finishing one this week in Aiken, South Carolina. I couldn't be more proud to walk that project because it's just going to be a great testament to the community. And we've got, the county's been great to us. They're happy with what we're doing. We're doing 2 more in that area. So it's we believe in it. We believe in our project is going to be an asset to the community.
But we respect those questions come up
I do. I
quite
respect the
frequently.
question. I truly do.
They come up quite frequently.
And I just know, does anybody else have any other questions?
Carol, my meeting.
I'm sorry.
Nice to see you too, by the way.
Hey, it took
I
a
was
lot for
gonna
me to
ask- I was
get
gonna
up
ask-
here
I
right
was gonna
now,
put-
let me tell you.
I was gonna just put George on the spot for a minute, because I know we got an email from the engineer on, was it Ty and Bond? Oh, they're gonna come back in the spring and they got it buttoned up for the season, but they're gonna come back. So Carol, the other half of your question, the engineer who's working with the water department, they're gonna come back in the spring and they're gonna button up all those roads. They just ran out of time. So the bumps and the pipes and everything's gonna be all taken care of. It's not gonna be like that forever.
I don't know, we'll see.
Sir.
I know Dudley, I lived in Dudley all my life. That's how it pays the guys.
Where's Mr. Marcy?
Overtime.
Where's Mr. Marcy? We need positive intent. Positive intent. Sir,
Hello, my name is Nelson. I'm a neighbor over here. My English is not perfect, so I'm going to try to do the best I can. We had a problem for us in the last 2 months with the road. And that brings another question. When is the Hill Street Bridge going to be fixed? It's been 2 years or more.
Oh.
I hear rumors. It's supposed to be 6 months and then demolished. It's more than 2 years.
well, that was part of the update Mr. Marcy gave you.
I know, that was-
It's federal money.
That was 2 years or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's supposed to last 6 months. Okay? My second question is traffic. Because we don't have a big space at the Stephen Building. One side is the river, and unless they're planning to put a bridge into Webster,
No bridge.
and we're gonna have a lots of traffic. It's 259 buildings you're building? 159. So that's 2 cars per. That makes about more than 300 cars on the road. We have two exits, Main Street, and the one to Dudley High School, Shepherd Hill, unless you want to go into Oxford. Then there's nothing else. We have a little project with the sewer and the National Grid or whatever it was in the last 2 months. You know how much problem that caused? And that's a mini problem compared to this one. I hope we're planning this right. I don't want to be a problem for me every day. We had already a big problem with the donut shop on the corner. We're still having the problem. I don't know who's going to fix the problem. People are coming out from the parking lot this way. They're not waiting for the signal to come on this way. And now we're going to have the Stephen building. It's approved. I don't know how that went through. Hopefully they fixed the parkings and the driving problems.
Well, I'm going to defer to Mr. Gumpert, because I know they had to do a traffic study for their submission through the planning board.
We did. So we had a traffic study, and that suggested some improvements that we're making. And, you know, yes, we have, I don't think we'll have 300 cars, but we'll have some number of cars. But they don't all come in and out at the same time. And so our traffic study took that into account.
Okay, let's put it 200 cars. And you have a wedding event. How many people are going to be on that wedding event?
You know,
Another 100 cars?
not sure. Not sure. I mean, as I said, we had a traffic study done, and those traffic studies take that into account. I'm not a traffic engineer, so my opinion doesn't count.
But what I'm saying, you don't live on that street, you don't live on that road, you don't live around that area. And you have 100 cars living there every day, and you add another 100 cars on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, you're going to have a lot of traffic there. And who's going to be paying for that? The people who live there, because the other people come and go. But the people who stay is going to suffer. I hope you guys think about it before you plan this.
We have thought about it. Yeah, I appreciate your concern, but we have given thought to that, and we have had an engineer look at it.
Yeah, I'm talking to the selectmen.
Yeah, okay.
Now, because they had a problem with they didn't see a problem with the Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, with the donut place in there, and that's a big problem.
Well,
We're going to add to it. Okay, thank you.
yes, sir. But I was just going to say, like I said, the planning board did the permitting process. They would have a copy of the, we don't have a planner right now, but they would have a copy of your study as part of your submission
That's right.
that maybe their chairman can somehow put it up on, so you can take a look at it. That's all I was going to say. Mr. Siganovich.
Yeah, I'll touch on the donut shop first. That was the planning board that approved how that happened. And we've tried to mitigate that with signs. I've spoken to the owner. We spoke to the owner. They came here before. We've done everything but have someone there 24 hours a day to usher traffic along. So if you have any thoughts on how to make that better, to fix that, by all means, open ears for that. And as far as traffic, I remember when I was a kid, when that mill was operational, there were 3 shifts of people who would park there, come in and out. So that area handled that traffic at that time. And didn't this go up for vote to town meeting?
Yeah,
So the residents approved this as well. This isn't just us.
I know.
The residents gave the okay.
I know, but the problem was 20 years ago when I moved to my house, it was only five houses on the block. Now it's about 20. Okay?
Yeah.
So that makes a difference, and that's on my block. And they build more houses on the street, they build more houses close to the school. So we add in people. The roads are still the same. So the traffic is going to grow.
Right. I mean, I remember we discussed that quite a bit with you folks when you came in before us. And I know that, like I say, the planning board definitely had that reviewed too, so. Yep. Come on up, just identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Deborah Dunn. I'm on Flaxfield Road as well. They're looking to the future, and I understand that. I have a question for you. people after where exactly are your other facilities that you've created. But I'm looking at the initial part. I have major concerns, and I'm wondering how much these things are all open to the public and are being transparent as far as the findings of even just a soil test there. That is extremely, in my mind, a toxic area of our town. And I don't know how it got passed to get such a facility to be created for the future. I can't imagine that there is not asbestos, never mind everything that was, every time there was a different kind of color that they were using for the mills, and they were polluting the water there. So I have a great deal of concern about what we are actually working with in that site.
Well, we've had environmental studies done on the building, and we've, concluded that there are not active issues.
Do we get to see them? Do we get to see those? Because when the dye house across the street was presented at the last one of the meetings, we were told, and there was somebody sitting here that said that actually they buried the stuff. They didn't have the money to even take care of it the right way. It was buried across the street. So you're not telling me that the stuff across the street is okay. And we live on this pond, and how many years down the road are we gonna hear that we have cancer or we have this, and all this stuff is gonna be leaked into our pond? We wanna see, we wanna see the proof.
So we're below the pond, right?
Yes, by the fence.
Yeah, so we don't have any impact to the pond. And our site has been tested and tested clean. This is not something that we did. We didn't dye anything.
Yes.
We've just logged the building. So we tested the building. It does have asbestos. We'll remove asbestos per the, various rules that you have to do that by. It does have lead paint. We'll remove that. But as far as other contamination, it just simply doesn't exist in that structure. Now, has that structure been cleaned prior to us getting there? Probably so. But from our taking on the building, moving forward, we do have plenty of tests to show that there's not, a concern on our part.
And we can have the documentation to see all that?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that
Open to the
documentation
public so that we
is
can
public
all...
record.
Okay, the public record, that's great. All right, we'd like to see that.
No worries.
That'd be great.
Did you actually tour the building yourself?
Yeah,
You did?
yeah, we're in it.
From top to bottom?
We're in it all day long.
Yeah, we've been in it from top to
So
bottom.
we're looking at it from a structural standpoint and every other standpoint. So yes, we
Structural, that's is not my concern, it's the toxic part of it.
I do an awful lot of these projects, and this is the least contaminated of any project I'm doing currently.
Is this your only project in
Sir,
Massachusetts?
Could you just identify yourself, sir?
Kevin Paulus, 42 Flaxfield.
Thank you.
Is this your only project in Massachusetts? Is this your
Yes.
first project in
Yes,
Massachusetts?
it is.
And my biggest concern, so are these walls coming down the
Yeah.
structure? So
Coming
it's
down.
going to be the same walls on the
Yes.
exterior all the way
Yeah.
around?
The additions.
You're not tearing this thing down?
No, I'm not.
You're not digging into the ground? So you're gutting the place, is what you're telling me, and you're making apartments in there and event rooms and so on. You're not tearing this thing down?
No, we're not tearing it down.
Well, that was the whole thing, if you guys have been following along, when, like Mr. Joseph was on the board, even the previous owners, we used to give them a letter for historical credits. We had to give them a letter every year. And part of it was they have to maintain that historical structure. They get the Twin Towers. They told us, and they're gonna take that glass off the front, which was the flea market. So that's coming off.
Right.
And I just want to remind people too, several years ago, I'm not sure when it was built, so I'm not going to even guess, but Tri-Valley took that space over. And they did it's obviously the biggest scope, it's the biggest scale, but that came out wonderful. I wasn't involved in it, but I don't recall there being any problems with contamination when they were doing the parking lot. And like Mr. Gumpin said, they have paid someone to do it. An engineer, somebody somewhere did that test and put their stamp on it, so.
Right. But it's just kind of funny to hear at a meeting of few times ago that our town, actually, one of your town workers who was involved, I forgot his name, he was kind of with him, the guy from the sewer, and they buried this toxic stuff. So why wouldn't they, it kind of makes it like, why wouldn't they not bury it across the street either? That's...
Well, they did. The mills used to dump the stuff in Merino Pond
Yeah.
back in the day.
So, but to have a town worker say that they couldn't get rid of it at the dye house across the street, so they buried it. He said it at the meeting. I was here at the meeting. When was that? We were here.
Is that right over there?
So,
Yeah, I would have to defer to,
so that, you have to look at your notes, back notes, but,
Yeah, but I'm not-
it just makes you wonder. That's all.
No,
We're
I
not
hear
here, and if it's all honest and true, yeah, that's great.
Another big concern is, there's more and more broken windows. And all you need is some wise guy. Throws something in there, catches the place on fire. Then you got all these fire departments from all over, all these towns, 10, 11, 12 alarm fire. And we're breathing all this toxic fumes, and it takes 4 or 5 days to put this thing out.
And as you see,
And so,
Well, let
it
me,
might be sweet for you guys to have a nice leveled out place, all cleaned out, but our concerns are for our firemen, our public service people in this town, and what's at stake for our health.
it's a very good point. Fire risk is always a concern with these timber buildings. The Dudley Police Department and the Fire Department, we've worked collectively with them to make sure, I'll say it like this, the ne'er-do-wells, which are oftentimes kids, but sometimes they're not, and they want to sleep or hang out in the mill. We have security cameras all around it. We have warned a number of people and physically arrested some that were doing, and we have full-time security there. Now, that won't prevent somebody from coming in there and doing what you just said. But on a colorful note, when we found 6 sticks of dynamite, the Dudley Fire Department was there in minutes, cleared the building, and took the dynamite out and blew it up, and it was quite a fantastic video. So we've been doing everything we can to keep people out. This is when you clean out a mill and it's ready for development, this is one of the riskiest times, but we have eyes on it all the time, and we'll probably increase that as we go along. But it's a very good...
Keep in mind, it's insured, but it's insured for nowhere near what we have into it.
And that's one of the benefits of the town doing what they're doing right now, and then us starting our roof work. As the presence of people are there all the time, the number, and then the construction goes, it completely changes. But in the in-between, like the last number of years, it's been, an active effort with the town and with our security team to make sure.
So you have, pardon me to interrupt, but you have your own security team, or you're
Yes.
relying on the...
We have our own security.
But they work in conjunction with the fire
They are.
department and the town's police department.
right, I was going to defer to the two chiefs if they want to speak on it briefly, but I remember you took the drones that time, Chief, to show the homeless people that were living on the roof, and all that stuff's gone now. Yeah. That's it.
So actually, back in 2011, when I first became chief, that building was a lot less secure than it is now. We had a number of problems. We had people living in there, illegal apartments. That was when the flea market was still in there. Since they've taken over, particularly in the last year and a half, 2 years, as they said, they've taken steps to secure the building, which we didn't have before. Again, it's not foolproof like they said, but it's a lot better than it was, I can assure you that. And when he's talking about the dynamite portion of it, we worked in conjunction with the State Police Fire and Explosion Investigation Unit, and they helped us dispose of the dynamite properly.
Right, controlled detonation.
Yes.
Chief, you want to add anything? Thank you, Chief. Bye, Chief.
Yeah, just real quick, same as the fire chief mentioned, over the last couple of years, it's gotten more secure. I do remember when I was a sergeant, somebody did break in. I was a teenager. We ended up catching them. Since then, I believe we've had maybe 2 or 3 arrests since then. But the company has cleared all the brush around the facility. They have secured all the windows. They have set up video cameras. And, you know, from what I gather is as the project starts up, ultimately there's going to be a lot of equipment there, valuable equipment, that they're going to want to protect. So I was told that the security would even increase even more than what it is now. But I don't think we had a problem there in over a year, ever since they cleaned up the site. And you know, we monitor, we work with them, but ultimately they're responsible for securing the site, and I think they've done a real good job in the last 2 or 3 years.
So should there be an additional fencing around this project, even though you're not deep into it? I mean, as you're saying, sir, that the broken windows are secure. That statement, I wouldn't totally agree. There's a lot of broken windows that things still could be thrown in. These type of things that can start a fire is my concern. Living on a dead-end street right there is be very difficult for, you know, we'd be trapped. And so we're counting on our local fire departments and police departments to handle such a crazy scene if something got out of control.
Yeah. I think we should encourage them to start working as soon as possible on this project. The longer we delay, the longer the possibilities are of somebody vandalizing it or, you know, possibly starting a fire. If they don't start to work, you're stuck with an empty mill that's a fire hazard for the next couple of years, including yourselves. You know, if that catches on fire.
But, yeah, I agree, but I think if you were living on Flaxfield Road, you'd have some of our concerns, too.
I would have the same concerns, and as far as the road condition,
that's the thing.
I believe in the springtime, they're supposed to go back in there, redo the sidewalks, repave the whole roads. So, yes, it's gonna be an inconvenience, but I think in the long run, I think it's gonna be a good thing for Dudley. And then, obviously, there's gonna be issues, but we gotta get through them and get that mill in shape before it becomes a death trap.
Before you go, I have a question.
Sure.
You're speaking of 6 sticks of dynamite. What size they were?
I wasn't there, but from what I gather is they were in the building. They weren't sure how hazardous they were, so they had a bomb squad come out and remove them, and that was probably the reasons why they were there, making sure that they were securing the building.
How long was this?
Yeah, last summer,
This year?
last year,
Last year.
2020.
Yeah, okay. How many people heard about this?
We had it on Facebook, I
I mean,
believe.
Yeah,
It's on Facebook, the video.
yeah, Facebook. I don't have
I
Facebook.
don't either.
And I believe
I
the
don't like
fire chief
Facebook.
spoke about it during one.
Anyway, my question to you will be, we live about half a mile from the Stephen Mills.
I'm just gonna ask everybody to kind of, can we have one at a time, talking up there? Well, we guys are a couple, that's okay, but instead of having 4,
Okay.
I'll recognize everybody, sir, but we just want to try to keep it a little,
Okay, my question is, we have 6 sticks of dynamite. I know how dynamite works. I come from a country there's a lot of miners in my country. You know, 1 stick of dynamite will damage a lot of houses. How come we didn't be notified or alerted or removed from the area when they have this problem?
well, it was. They called, the fire department was there. There was 3 or 4 engine companies, I believe, at the time. The state police were involved.
Well, we didn't hear nothing about it to be. What about the one of those explode? There are 6 of them.
I'll let the chief handle it.
I believe that it was found when they were doing one of their cleanouts. It wasn't something that just was recently there. It's probably been sitting in there for 10 or 12 years. It was from before.
Correct.
I mean, there was all kinds of stuff in there. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers, but I did a video where I went through the whole facility and listed the hazards. There was some other hazardous materials that they removed from the facility and cleaned up. I mean, so they actually improved it since.
I agree with that, but the part I understand is, if you find an explosive item in an area that's condensed by from other houses, you're supposed to evacuate a little bit.
What? I didn't understand what.
Evacuate, remove the people from the houses, so you don't lose lives.
Well, I understand that. I've been in my job for 32 years, so, but we contacted state police fire and explosion investigation. I mean, That's what they do for their living. We asked all the questions, covered all the bases, and we asked if it was necessary to evacuate houses, and they told us no.
Thank you.
And it
That's
was,
what I
and
wanna
it was
hear.
removed, it was removed from the area, so it was no longer posed a threat to the neighbors.
Thank you.
You got something, Dave? No. Not that you have.
Back to my original concern, is there an office in the town hall or an office anywhere located near the mill that we could see the findings of the actual soil tests, et cetera? Is that transparent for the public?
I'm going to defer that to the administrator or the assistant because I don't deal with it day-to-day.
Well, we can, I think that's a great idea, that if, and we could probably publish those things online so that it would be easy for everyone to access. We could start with the original traffic study that took place probably 4 or 5 years ago. Similar concerns were brought up. At that time, they did a peer review to make sure that the original traffic study was legit. So we have the peer review findings, and Olivia and I can work with Camden and Mr. Gumper and make sure that, you know, what we can release or what they, you know, it's privately owned, but anything that we have is available to the public to see. We can publish it right online, and Debbie's sitting right there, and she's going to have coverage of this, you know, on social media and stuff tomorrow. So it won't be, I can't turn it around tonight, but we'll certainly work towards that and give you everything we have. We'll publish it.
Thank
Put
you.
it right online.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, folks. Good questions.
Yeah, one more simple thing. I'm a walker. I walk through there, and if you guys have all the money you can to build up this facility, that area is so dangerous walking. There's a guy who walks all the time with a cane, and like even nobody ever shovels those sidewalks. They're covered in poop, dog poop, there's snow. It's very dangerous, so maybe you could look into having that taken care of for the people that are around there, that use that, walk around there all the time. Because you know, right under that bridge area where they use, that's awful. It's terrible.
Carol, honestly, I would recommend you reach out to the police chief. If people aren't shoveling their sidewalks, for example, there is a bylaw. They have, they're supposed to do it.
Yep.
That would be.
I didn't know who I have to address it to.
I'd reach out to the chief, and
Okay, thank you.
he's very responsive.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Thank you, Carol.
Mr. Chairman, even as we speak, as the lady brought up sidewalks, one of the improvements as a result of this development project is that crazy sidewalk that goes from 3 feet wide to about 18 inches wide, right around the corner. That's going to be improved. The road's going to be improved. The sidewalk infrastructure is all going to be part of the improvement plan. So I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of, you know, reclaiming and redeveloping this mill as opposed to watching it slip into the river with everything that it contains and everything floating right down the river and causing more problems, you know, than we was talking about here tonight. I understand everyone's concern, but the idea is to mitigate and reclaim and develop as opposed to just let it sit until a bunch of kids discovers 3 sticks of dynamite in the place instead of the developer in the fire department.
Amanda Copeland.
Yes, thank you.
Senator Fatman.
Yes, from Senator Fatman's office. I'm his new district director. So this is a full circle moment for me right now. My father owned Stevens Linen for 25 years, so that was where I worked in my childhood on Schofield Ave 1, though. He sold this mill in 1993. So I just wanted to ask the 3 of you, as on the senator's behalf, this is something that is really important to him and his constituents in the area. You had mentioned having several walkthroughs throughout the progress of the construction project. Are these going to be announced to the local state representative and state senator so we can push this information out to the surrounding neighbors and or the constituents of Dudley Webster area who are interested? And do you guys need my email address to let me know when the walkthroughs will be?
Sure, yes, we do. It's designed to bring the community into the project so they can see exactly what we're doing. So
Excellent.
It's really for the residents.
Okay.
And we will absolutely publish that. And we'll really do it in conjunction with the town.
Okay, awesome. My dad's been following the project, so he's excited to see that the mill is not being torn down. It's being repurposed and going to level up the community around Dudley. So on behalf of my family and also Senator Fatman's office, thank you for taking the time and energy to reinvest in Dudley, because it really is such a beautiful town and created such good memories for my family.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, we were talking before, somebody was talking about the speed of the project, and I don't want to get into the weeds of everything, but part of it too is, like you said, going through the feds, the historical, a lot time consuming. They work at their schedule.
Yeah,
And of course, we got COVID and we got supply chain issues, now you got interest rates, and you've ballooned from 43 to almost 60, right?
Right.
Oh, right. And you guys aren't going anywhere.
As I tell people, we don't have a plan B.
Right.
So we're in it to get it done, and we will get it done. But what I also tell people is it takes us forever to get stuff done. It just is the nature of these type projects. They're difficult, but we do get them done. And I've got 2 opening up as we speak, and you don't have to look any further than those 2 projects, because those towns are ecstatic. And they went through every bit of problem that we're going through. They went through every bit of growing pain that we're going to go through. The same financial issues showed up on those as well, all those were a little further along. So, it's just part of the process.
Right.
We do run into problems, I promise you, on every deal, but we get through those problems.
And your website's Camden Property, so people can't go to...
I don't even have a website, but you guys could probably turn them into... we can certainly get you onto the website of our properties.
Wouldn't show the other...
And they're fun to do. I mean, they're every bit worth doing.
Okay. Good. Anybody else? Oh, sorry.
Hi, Peg Kennedy, Lawrence Road. I'm really glad this project is actually going through. I feel it's a very positive thing for the town, instead of having that beautiful building abandoned. And, I understand the other citizens' concerns. I also live in Moreno Pond, but off of Sawmill, which we could really use a sidewalk there. But I think it's really going in a very positive direction, and it's going to take time, Yes, is that donut shop a problem? Yes. My only thing, I think maybe you could find a place for them to relocate somewhere in Dudley, that has a bigger parking lot. And I think it will really help grow our town. Our town needs other things here for people to do, and I think it's a great town. And I think if we move forward, I think it'll be a great project. And my only thing is, you said you're going to have something for like this hall. Is this going to be like a venue hall, like someone rents it, or is that how? And how
Yes.
big? How big will that be?
It's about 4,000 feet or so.
A little bit by
And it can expand if there's an event that goes beyond that, but it's a way to expand the project as more than just housing.
Mhm.
So it doesn't happen all the time, but people have special events there, and it's a great, venue to do that.
Mhm.
You've got
But
a
it is
river, you can play off the river, you can play off the historic nature of the building. So if we do it right, it'll be quite something.
It'd be nice to have something cultural too, like some kind of, something to do like with art, or bring other people in some events or something like that, or a place for that.
Yeah, our hope is that people will come look at it and say, wow, this is really a nice transition from an industrial building to a residential building. So we're hoping that is.
Well, I'm glad you're saving the building.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody good? Well, thank you folks for coming in.
Thanks so much.
And you've been very good about periodic updates. I know you're in touch with him probably once every week or so.
We were really going to be excited to start those tours, because that means we're starting the project.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's looking forward to it.
trust me, we're working hard towards it, and we'll see where we go.
All right, we appreciate you folks coming in. We appreciate everybody with your questions tonight. They're all good questions. Hopefully you got your answers. If not, reach back with emails. I'm sure Mr. Gumpert or the other 2 gentlemen will respond.
That we will. Thanks so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
That's my agenda. agenda. Sat too long.
Next is town accountant.
Yep. Next up, 6 is town accountant, or 5B, I mean. Sarah,
Is that?
you're up.
Yes, I'm up.
Yep.
Am I on? Yes, no?
She's on? Yep.
Okay. We've lost like half the crowd. Okay, well,
Don't take it personal.
I know. Well, no one really likes to talk
li-
numbers, right?
I'm listening.
Okay. I spent a lot of time pulling together some charts and graphs, and I'd like to provide an update. I know the agenda says that it's a quarterly update. It's not quite a quarterly update. It'll be a year-to-date update for cash receipts, and that will be through October 31st. That's as much cash as I've posted so far. You might ask the question, why aren't I up to date through December on the cash receipts? And Rich and I have been working collaboratively, trying to, we post the cash and then I reconcile all of the accounts receivable and the cash, the escrow accounts and everything with him. And it takes time, and we have a new accounting system. There's some things we're working through. At the same time, I'm on a learning curve. It's my first time with all the state reporting requirements, so we're getting there. The expenditures are up to date. I'm going to be presenting through December 31st. The information on the revenues and the expenditures is on the website. If you go under the accountant, there's year-to-date for the expenditures, and I posted it today, so it's right through January 27th. And the cash receipts are through, as I mentioned earlier, December 31st. So if you can...
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Sarah, just move this a little closer to you. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All right, so I have an agenda. So I want to start with a general update on what's going on and what's I've been doing for the past 7 months. Then walk through the cash receipts and the expenditures. Cash receipts reflected after the recap that we adjusted down some of the local cash receipts. And then talk a little bit about the recap, because I have some citizens that have been inquiring about why some actions were taken, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So, general update. Okay, I've been with the town since June, in my 7th month, and I had the opportunity to work with Deb Thibodeau for 6 weeks before she retired. Unfortunately, it was the end of the fiscal year, and we were very focused on closing the books. In July and August, we closed the books. In September, the auditors came in and reviewed the work that we did. Early part of October, we submitted the balance sheet to the state, and from there we were certified our free cash. A note on the free cash for this year, it came in around $194,000, which is significantly lower than we average on other years. Primarily, I went back 4 years, and we averaged between $400,000 and $500,000 a year, and this year, with 194, that's significantly less, and so we have a little bit less wiggle room as expenditures pop up. And so the hope is to be a little bit more conservative so that there's a little bit more wiggle room. After cash was certified, we worked on the recap. So the assessor, the assessing committee, and myself worked together, and we set the tax rate. That came through in early December. Tax bills were able to go out, and in early January, the third requirement for state filing, the Schedule A, or the expenses and revenues for the prior year, was submitted, and all that information goes into a dashboard of the state. They have visualizations, and at any time, if the town wants to see how they compare to other communities, they can go on there and get some really great information. And I hope that as we move forward, I can bring some of that information to the table too. So that's pretty much the update. I'm going to jump in on the revenues. What you see in front of you, $23 million, is the revenues after the recap. And the largest components by far are the assessments and the state funding, with 77% of the revenues are attributed to the assessments and 10% from state funding. So that leaves a residual 13% from local receipts. And half of that is the motor vehicle excise tax. So if you can advance to the next slide. Year to date, or not year to date, but through October 31st, we had collected $7 million worth of receipts. And if you would, I like the next slide better because it gives a little better representation of where we are. If you look at the blue, that would be where we are, but you really have to focus on, as I was telling John earlier, if I could do two-dimensional graphs, I think I'd be in a better position. But if you look, they're sorted bottom to top on the amount of revenue that each component or source would bring in. And so the 87% I was talking about earlier are the state funding and the assessments, which are at right around 30% year to date, which is where you want to be, 4 months into a 12-month cycle, about a third of the way there. And then the others kind of go back and forth, but they don't really have that high level of contribution. So general point, when you look at revenues through October, we're pretty much on the mark, meeting our budget. So then we can move to the expenditures. So here's our following supplemental budget, where the total general fund expenditures lie. And right off the bat, over 55% of the revenues are for education. When I did this grouping, and I did the general government category, there's things in there, they flow through the Treasury Department that are, they distort the presentation a little bit. So we have $1.3 million worth of contributions that were made to the retirement board that are included in that number, that 5.6. So if you move to the next slide, well, actually not this one, this slide, I just wanted to indicate that, we have about halfway there, about 53% of expenditures are incurred to date on the budget, which is where you want to be halfway through the year. But if you move to the next slide, again, you see we're right down the middle, pretty much in every category, with the general government being a little bit over, but if you were to pull out that 1.3, you'd be right around the low 50s, 51, 52%. So staying to budget year to date with the expenditures as well. And the last item I wanted to briefly discuss was the recap process, because I did get a little bit of feedback from some citizens, and I want to make sure that people understand the town's goal is to maximize, or we have the practice of levying to the maximum allowable levy limit. Okay, so we go through an exercise. We don't say what the tax rate is going to be by any stretch of the imagination. We put in the information, and the state sets the rate for us. So during the process, as we went through recap this year, we collaboratively worked, and we took the advice of our accountant, our outside accountant, as well as DOR, and strategically sat with John and Rich and myself and Lisa and her input from the assessors, the assessment committee, and put in the information with the goal to not leave any excess levy capacity at the table. And we still had some residual $9,000, I think, left. But, so the tax rate, and it went up 9 cents, so very minimally. So I think we're in a position, and if we collect more cash, then one of the important things is how we got the rate, the excess levy capacity down, was we reduced the local receipts. And so if we collect more than what we budgeted, that money will go to free cash and will be available to us for the town to vote usage for in the next fiscal year.
And Sarah, that, not to interrupt, but that recommendation came right from the auditor, right? From DOR?
DOR
Yeah.
and the auditor. Everybody's on the same page. We have very low reserves, and, you know, we're not building them at this point. But if we collect more than what we budgeted after we've reduced, that money will go to free cash.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear to people. That was just not some number that was created.
Right,
There's
right. It wasn't, there was no,
Yeah, there's a
it is what it
methodology
is.
behind this. Yeah, thank you.
So, I don't know if anyone has any questions or.
Questions for the accountant?
Yeah. I'm hoping to get on track with a quarterly presentation as we go forward, but, and that'll help identify issues earlier so that we can be more responsive.
So we don't get hit with like a $300,000 excise surplus we didn't know about a couple of years ago.
So just a few maybe clarifications through the chair is, I don't know if Sarah wants to speak to it or Rich, but oftentimes when we have billing cycles, there's more cash out up front than there is being taken in, and that is heavily reliant on the billing cycle. So when you look at the different breakdowns that you provided,
Right, right.
just having a little sidebar with Mr. Johnson, it was
It
seven.
looked like there was 12 million out, but only 7 million in at that point.
Where on the graph or,
Expenditures versus receipts.
are you looking for the 4 months out or?
I just wanted to clarify because we were only talking till October, now we're in
Yes,
December.
exactly, yeah. So we're missing 2 months.
There's
If
a
you were
lag.
to line up side by
7
side.
million in through October, but
Yeah.
the 12 million outs through yesterday. Yeah.
Well, December 31st.
December 31st,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that it's a little off cycle, and that's, so,
But it shows the importance of communication between Rich's office and your office to make sure that we're not overrunning and we know we
Right.
have
Yeah.
planned to come in versus what we're spending.
and I'm really hoping to work collaboratively with the Treasury, and, you know, we as a team, one of the things I didn't mention is we did establish a finance team, and that came back as a recommendation. I know you'll go into that later from DOR, but they had brought that up when they were out here doing their site work. And we embraced it and started meeting regularly back in September. So, so that communication it's improving as we go on.
And Mr. Chairman, we also work within obviously the law and the limits of Proposition 2.5. So when you talk about the tax levy, you talk about 2.5% being the cap.
Right.
We want to get closer to the 2.5% to make sure that we can maintain operating costs for the following year. We're in a position right now where we're looking at a reduced rate of inflation. We're at about 3%. We've averaged about 8% over the last 3 years or so. So when you're taxing below the 2.5% cap, you're not able to continually maintain the operations in that sort of environment. So when we make those adjustments and the tax rate is set by DOR, it's always within that 2.5% cap. So you can see, to anyone who's not involved with this from a day-to-day perspective, you can see where when things are rising at a rate of over 2.5%, and we're only looking at assessments that can rise to 2.5%, and that's the great portion of our budget, you can see where we need to make sure that we maximize that tax levy, to make sure that we're at least at the 2.5% on an annual basis going forward.
So historically, if you have the information, how close are we to the 2.5 every year? Because DLS included it in their report.
How close are we to the 2.5?
Yeah, like we weren't like at 1.25, for example. You were saying, Ray?
The question is, how close do we get to 2.5% on an annual basis in terms of...
Historically?
Yeah, historically and more recently, because I think that's one of the issues we identified, that we didn't quite get to that.
Well, like last year when we left money.
We left money on the
Yeah,
table, so to
yeah,
speak.
We had no free cash. I mean, little or no free cash at the end of the year.
I think we were at 1 or 1.5% increase last year.
I'm just curious.
And you remember that the narrative was constantly
Leave money.
that we were too conservative,
Yeah.
but it turns out that we finished behind
Even with
in a revenue estimate. So
Yeah.
we have to do a better job on a daily routine basis of maintaining that
Yeah.
look at the books.
Timely
The Rich is
updates.
standing up.
Yeah, no, it's on.
No.
Rich?
Good evening. Sarah, thank you. Excellent presentation. To answer the question on how close you can get, it's the division. If you go up an additional penny, you will exceed previous year's levy plus 2.5 plus the certified new growth. So you're literally backing in through division through it. When the commitment book is balanced out, figure a half a penny for the 5,000 bills, so you should be within no more than X amount of dollars as far as the error goes. But Mr. Ruda, the town administrator, is correct. The idea is that each year, the recap is the reformulation of the previous year, giving you the next year's limit, and it's to maximize it. We're not the city of Boston, where the discussion is how much do we raise taxes. It's the exact opposite. These are our constraints. Let's optimize what that, for argument's sake, that next $100,000 goes for.
Makes sense.
And while I'm up here, I do appreciate the additional time. Sarah came into the office last week to review, and the question was, assistant treasurer's salary is right on the money for pretty much everything. When you get to some of the fixed costs, and I think this narrative is going to come up as the budget starts, Worcester Regional Retirement sends an assessment. It is a bill. It's not a 1/12. It's pay up front or pay the lion's share. We pay both halves up front and get the discount. So there's some money savings like that. So there's a great deal of what you'd call your fixed costs coming out of the treasurer's budget. And those are bills. There's really no way around it. Property and casualty, we're in the second year of a non-renew, so some of those things truly are going to be the fixed cost, and those are going to be, I won't say the low-hanging fruit, but those would be the first things that you would want to fill in as the budget starts, because those costs are known or generally known, and you need to build off that as much as, something like contractual obligations, whatever your power is going to be for the place, so on and so forth.
Excellent. Any questions for the treasurer?
Just a quick tail end on that. When you look at the general government, like I'm sure that we're going to put this up online at some point, when you look at the general government side of spending, when you look at the pie chart that Sarah created, it looks big, but those that part of the pie chart contains what Rich just went over, the cost of health insurance, retirement, those things. And so it's not, oh, well, how much does it cost to run a town hall? It's how much do the liabilities that go along with health insurance and so forth, how much has that increased? That part of the pie, that general government part of the pie, also contains those aspects of Rich's budget.
Sarah touched on it. She said.
Yeah, it's a little bloated, is what it is, because we don't charge out to every department the health insurance. It all comes through the general government, so like the public safety, they don't get hit.
Just pointing that out.
Oh, no, that's good. She mentioned too about the burner chop. She said take out the 1.3 and go back at 50%.
Right, right.
Yeah, the
so
1.3,
it's
it looks
just-
like we're,
Yeah, most of the
Two,
cost,
whatever it
you know, it's salary, and we get paid weekly, so, but there hasn't been any big hiccups, or not a lot of snow either, so.
anybody in the public that's left have any questions? Thanks, Sarah, for her presentation. We look forward to a regularly scheduled update. Quarterly. Next up, Town Administrator Report, Mr. Buda.
I thought we'd take a few minutes and see if there were any. Last week, at the last meeting, I was asked by the board to draft a action plan, which is essentially based on the DLS financial review we received, and it provides a timeline and responsible parties. And for the very vast majority of this DLS financial review report and the action plan, it's a pretty heavy lift for most of the finance team, which is me, Sarah, and Rich, and Lisa, and Olivia. But I've given that draft off to the selectmen last week and want to know what the next steps might be.
Well, how would the board like to handle it? I don't know if we want to go through every single bullet point. We have the action plan in front of us. And once we approve it, it becomes part of the record, and we can post it, have Deb post it, give people an idea what's going on.
Well, it looks to me like each point that the DLS report brought up is broken down here with a plan on next steps. So, you want to discuss each piece now? Or did you?
Go ahead, sorry, Kevin. That was my point. Do we want to go through it bullet point?
Or do we want to wait till the recommendations are back? Or?
Mr. Johnson.
Or another suggestion would be if we want to build a schedule and have the town administrator's report tackle one of these each meeting for a quick update after, unless you want to go through it the first time to approve if people have already read it.
Oh, I'm fine with whatever the board decides. I read the bullet points at the previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, this pretty much specifies a schedule within it, and I'll just pick one. Codify financial team bylaws. Specific tasks and key performance indicators include establish the financial management team and its roles. The deadline is August 2025, so certainly that would be a report out period for the Board of Selectmen in August of 2025. A draft bylaw is submitted at the same time for review for this. This is just based on one of the recommendations. There'd be a deadline of October 25th because we're talking about codifying a bylaw, and the adoption of the bylaw would be scheduled for that town meeting in October of 25. So it is spelled out, and I think we could probably, like Mr. Johnson suggested, make sure that it appears on subsequent agendas.
All right, so I guess what I'm hearing then is, for example, number one, discover use of reserve, discontinue use of reserves and one-time revenue for operating budget, which we publicly talked about trying not to do. The administrator is going to be tasked with coming up with a solution and with an estimated deadline of August 1st, 2025.
So this is drafting a policy, Mr. Chairman, and it's, to avoid using reserves. Some of these things we're not going to be able to obviously have a solution for immediately. We don't use reserves because we don't know how to apply extra revenue. We just don't have the extra revenue. Right. But we could certainly come up with a policy that makes sense for the board to take a look at and potentially adopt. The deadline for that, for something like that, is October 31st.
Right.
We'd give a presentation, we'd meet, we'd go over the draft policies just like we do with any other policy.
With the intent to get it on the October 2025 town meeting warrant.
Well, the policy is adopted by this board.
Right.
Bylaws, the bylaw would be something we would put on the
That was
warrant.
the other one we were talking about.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Sigenovich.
Does the town administrator want us to accept this? Do you need a vote,
That's what I was saying.
something?
We want to just accept it and post it? I mean, everybody had a chance to.
I think
do it, I hope.
the sooner we get this out in the, as soon as the board accepts it and gives me some direction to proceed with it, at least we've assigned some deadlines and some dates to it, we can get moving on it.
So
And we
it's
could
not-
certainly publish it.
So it's not just a pipe dream, it's a plan.
It's a
And-
plan.
And if I may, I just want to say for the record how we got here. We had a resident that made a recommendation for an audit, and they said that the auditor's office would perform that. We reached out to the auditor's office, I believe Mr. Ruda did.
And
They
Mr.
said, "We don't
Landry
do
and
this."
Representative Marcy as well.
Representative Marcy as well, and they said the DLS does this. And so that's why we reached out to the DLS, they came out, and they gave us a report, and people can read that report, correct? That's somewhere.
It's online right
on the
now.
Website, excellent. And this is our response to the report. We're taking each bullet point, we're going to study it, and we're going to act on it, and we're going to put something before the residents. Is that accurate?
I think it's a mandate right now.
Okay.
You know, and just to piggyback on what Kerry said, I'll get you one sec, Rich. I believe the auditor's office also said not only did they weren't going to come and do it, they only come when there's problems, and Dudley didn't have any problems. There was no red flag by our own auditor, there was nothing like popped up on
And
the
they
radar.
generally, they told us at the time that they generally only handle state agencies.
Yeah, that was a big one too, but they also, they said they only come in when there's a problem.
But DLS had a division, and they referred it, the auditor's office referred us to DLS. That's all this division does, and it's all available online, is these financial management reviews.
And what's great is this is impartial, it's from the state. It's a third party having a look and saying what they see. Can't ask for more than that. So what, I don't know if you want Rich
Coming up
before I
next,
make the
Rich.
motion.
Would not want to interrupt anything.
No, why not?
Good evening. It was my understanding the financial team was to provide a recommendation. Mr. Ruda has put this forward independently. Your discussion with him is your charge to him as that's his job. When we had our last meeting here, it's my understanding that it was going to be more of a collaborative effort. I fully intend to have a response for these as I see them. Would like some input. It was also understood that as much as the report was published, you sought public input like you did for the Stevens Mill. I would dare say that's a good idea. You objectively have the information out there, and if there's something that the residents think that they'd like to see addressed, maybe there should be a period of that.
Well, I think that's the intent. I think, like Kerry said, the intent is to codify just the action plan tonight that we have. And then the financial team will be created, and that's when the financial team will get involved with the stuff that
Well-
DLS recommended, right?
Yeah, and I can see Rich's confusion about him being a part of it, but there's no question, as a member of the finance team and everything else, that most of these 16 recommendations from DLS require Rich to be a part of presenting it publicly, bringing it to a public meeting, working internally with Sarah and I and Lisa and whoever else needs to be involved in it. It's all spelled out in this action plan, that you would fully participate in it and provide recommendations publicly and
It was more my take on, from the last meeting, that part of the response would be collaboratively drawn out, as opposed to the town administrator authoring the schedule for things.
Well, I didn't understand it, and maybe the board can correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't think that we were going to have a committee to form a schedule. But we certainly going to have a collaborative response to all 16 recommendations, including the Treasurer Collector's Office, no question about it.
No one's acting alone on this. This is just.
It's all spelled out here.
This is just a schedule. Am I reading this right? This is just, we're not putting anything under the carpet, so to speak. We're addressing everything in an orderly manner with timeline. There's nothing here about decisions. Well,
And I think the public comment we have to have a plan in order to generate the public comments. So now if we address this plan and accept it, like you said, the financial team will do their thing, but like the government study committee, for example, that'll be hosted, we'll have a public hearing, a public meeting. We'll seek input from the community. Hopefully come up with a plan there too, like a subset of the big plan.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson.
I agree that throughout here, you can see, like, evaluate current government structure and suggest improvements based on findings. It's the task is to understand the problem, not to, this doesn't solve the problem.
No.
It just sets up a structure to organize the right teams to do that
To address.
analysis.
Right. Right. So I mean, that's what I thought at our last meeting. I thought that's what the intent was. Have him come back with a plan, which he did.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In fact, you said the town administrator and his staff will create that plan and bring it back to us at this meeting, and that's what's happened.
And I agree with Kerry, it's a framework.
There's no decisions on here.
There's no decisions I can
No
make
decisions, no
unilaterally.
directives other than to begin solving, potentially solving.
Yeah, the issues were raised.
Exactly.
So, does that help?
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft action plan DLS financial review.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So, going forward, as these ramp up, we want to have it as an agenda item, almost at every meeting, so we get an update,
Sure.
or just as needed.
Sure, the light of day should be on this process. Exactly.
In relevance to the dates that are in here.
And then if someone wants to speak about something, they can come and speak. I mean, we're always saying, we want people to come, citizen comments, what have you, there it is.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Johnson?
not to push another type of chart on anyone, but a Gantt chart would.
A what?
A Gantt chart, it's a list
I
of
know what it
tasks.
is.
And I'm talking to the chairman.
Sorry.
See, let's see a limit on their head, so I guess it's something good.
It's an easy way to see a schedule visually and the tasks that are lined up in what order, and based on and you have a lot of topics here and they intermingle, so it's an easy way to step back and see what's coming next.
Laurie Smith.
Excuse me, I just have one question. So this report that you just accepted, that was recommendations, so you're just accepting, receiving the report, not that you're going to actually do everything in it? Is that correct?
No, that's not my understanding. I mean,
So
guys made the
you-
motion.
I made the motion, so I'll say it. We're accepting an action plan. We're not accepting the findings or any actions. What I made a motion to accept is a plan to review them by different groups of people and to suggest actions. And we're going to have agenda items where people can come, you can come, anybody can come and talk about it. This wasn't to take any action to do anything. This is to codify, to put in stone a schedule of where we're going to look at everything addressed in the report. We're not going to take out three of the items and put the rest under a carpet. Everything will be addressed.
So it's still possible that you're not going to accept some of the items that are in that report.
Right, and some of it involves bylaw changes, so it's gonna go to town. Some of it involves bylaw change, so that goes to town meeting.
Right, but I'm saying, I guess what I'm confused on, are you accepting that you want to do everything that they said in that right now, or you want to investigate it?
Investigate it.
Okay,
Like,
and,
for example, the Good Government Study Committee, I'm just gonna make it up.
okay,
They come back and say, nope, everything's perfect. We like having elected people report to the voters, we like having selectmen control this, we like having a highway department. The committee can come back and say that, and then we go. But
So-
they also can come back and say, I want to change, I'll make it up, DPW, because that's always a good buzzword around here. Got to go to town meeting.
right. But for public input on this, and I was probably wrong on it, at the last meeting when you had it on the agenda, I thought tonight was when you were getting public opinion on it.
No, now that we accepted it, that's, as we start opening up.
Well, I
these-
know, but I thought that's what tonight's was, that's why I came tonight. I thought you were taking public opinion on it tonight. So if we had concerns with certain areas of it, is it gonna be like one night that you're gonna go through all of it, or are you picking it apart to different ones?
I'm going to defer to how Jonathan handles that.
So there's 16 recommendations. Each recommendation has a responsible party. So adopt formal financial policies, for example. Responsible party is the finance team, which is Rich, Sarah, me, Lisa, to draft, to take a look at the list that's been suggested by DLS of formal financial policies. Each one weighs in. We draft up those financial policies. We explain why we think one or two or three or all of them should be thrown out, or one or two or three of them, all of them should be drafted and accepted. This is just one of the recommendations for the same thing. Feedback and review is number 2 on specific tasks. Feedback and review, draft policies will be presented at Board of Selectmen meeting between April and December 2025 for feedback. So they could probably, if there's 9 policies between April and December, these policies would come into a Selectmen's meeting publicly. If there was a policy that you particularly disagreed with, or wanted amended, or you agreed with, come in and you talk at that
So
time.
watch the agendas is what you're saying.
Right, so that's how it's all set up. None of it is, there's no time that I come back unilaterally, or Sarah comes back, or Rich comes back and says, this is what we're doing, or this is what we don't like. It's all based on a review internally with responsible parties assigned to each recommendation, and then it's all done transparently and publicly.
Okay, so at that point, people can come in and make their comments on it.
Which one do you hate?
Well, there's.
You're definitely
it's
here
not-
for
It's not
something.
ones that I hate, but there's some, like there was one making the treasurer collector appointed versus elected. I know we tried that in 2020, and I thought I was gonna get run off the stage on that. People were definitely against that, so I just would like to see public opinion on that.
And
before-
absolutely.
And then.
I'm not carrying that flag. There's no way I'm carrying that flag.
And then the last one was the Harper's payroll
Yeah.
section.
And keep in mind, none of this came from us. Those 15 items, it came from no one here. It came from outside of town.
Right. It was a recommendation, though, is my point, that it was a recommendation from them. It's not necessarily what the people of Dudley are gonna want in its entirety.
They've got to vote for it if they
Right.
want it. And if they don't want it, they don't want it. That's all.
Right.
They're going to get what they want. which is a
What I'm
great
looking
thing.
for is a time for them to talk about it, too, so John
It would be
answered the question.
suicide for anybody on this, sitting here, to say, nah, we don't like this one, so we're not even gonna take a look at it.
Yeah. No,
without
I just wanted to make
public-
sure, because I was under the impression, and I was mistaken, that tonight was the time to do that. So I just want to make sure I don't miss it when it is the time.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone else? Okay, you answered that for me, so
So
thank you.
internally, there's a heavy lift, everybody's gonna be involved, and publicly, people will be involved to the extent that they want to.
Okay.
There's no surprises, all transparent.
Okay, that answers that.
And the
Thank
DLS
you.
report's online, and they bullet pointed all their recommendations, and they gave the reason why they recommended what they did.
Right, I've read it.
So
Mhm.
if people at home are watching, that's where you go first. Read the report, digest it. As Kerry said, that wasn't us, that was outside people, that's what they do for a career. So as we get into the public discussion, like you said, you almost ran off the stage that night. It's only because this is just a response to the DLS study, which was a response to the citizen who came in and couldn't get what he said he was going to get, which not no fault of his own, but this is what we got from the state.
Okay,
As you know how it works.
right.
I think you're
Okay.
calling one state agency, you get another one.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Jen, you have something you want to say?
No, I was just I was thinking about, Lori mentioned the Harper's item specifically, and I know that was something that we were hoping to get on board back in August. So the fact that it shows up in the DLS report and it still hasn't been completed, like that particular one for me, it's like not necessarily. It seems to be a no-brainer. It's something we're already working on. Its inclusion in this action plan really just kind of gives us more concrete days to try to get some deliverables, so that we can kind of install the project and move it forward, regardless of like what the reasons were. Because again, like I think I had said back over the summer, like the August go live date seemed really aggressive to me as someone who's like brought other things online. Stuff happens, it comes up, but like at least this is like a more concrete roadmap. It's really all I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Perfect. Rich?
Mr. Chairman, that's the one item they came up here on. All of a sudden, it leaves my office and becomes the Board of Selectmen's project on the recommendations here. That was one of the things that was a concern to me. Now that it's being mentioned, I have an issue with it. The Board of Selectmen wouldn't dare go through voter registration for the town clerk. Same thing with the harbors. It's one of the defects that I see in this, and something that I would have liked to have seen worked on prior to the submission to the board, I guess would be my succinct statement on that. As far as responsibilities, implementation, things like that. Again, if there's a financial team and everybody's moving forward, like Mr. Shane had said, everything should be pretty straightforward. The idea that there isn't a revisit specifically to this one is a concern to me, especially when the responsibilities are now shifted. I have an issue with that.
Well, again, none of these are being acted on tonight, and to go to one you and Lori discuss your position, that's gonna come out, there'll be a subcommittee, part of this action. It's gotta go to town meeting. It's not anything, again, DLS in 2020 was a direct result of town council's recommendation. Town council wasn't the Board of Selectmen at the time. Town council recommended that position go to appointed as opposed to elected. So that was the genesis in 2020. Now in 2024/5, it's DLS. And again, it goes to town meeting, gets defeated.
Where does Harper's get defeated at town meeting? I'm sorry.
I was talking about, the position, that question,
Okay.
not the Harper's.
The effectuation of number 10, did you have a comment on that?
I read them all.
I mean,
Give me a second. I don't have them all memorized.
no, but I make mention of it because you, Mr. Chairman, made it a point to reach out.
Yeah, oh yeah. You
And we had a better discussion, and I appreciate all of the time, and there were some tangents on that discussion. So I think you, of all people, would understand a pretty clear picture of the state of payroll. Also make the remark right now that one of the 5 selectmen had reached out with a concern on any of these since receiving the report. I usually make it a point to invite, to engage if there's a questions, something specifically or something broader. I'd be more than happy to have that discussion. For a deeper dive, like I like to call it, maybe there's that extra layer that maybe I don't explain as well at the meeting, where we could get to a foundational point and build off of that. And again, the idea, this is the town of Dudley and how to do things a little bit better.
That's the hope. I mean, again, 16 points. Some will be easy to incorporate. Policy should be pretty easy, and some probably won't be incorporated.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Rich.
I think with certain issues, if you reach loggerheads and you can't get a project done, then somebody needs to break the tie, and this is the chief executive board that breaks the tie. There's no question about it. It's not the town administrator, it's not the treasurer's office. If you reach loggerheads and can't get a project moving after 4 years of trying to do so, the chief executive board makes the decision. It's not up for debate.
Yeah.
And that discussion should happen here, over
Right
here.
here.
I agree. You good with the DLS, for the action plan, I mean?
We voted, right?
Yes. I'm great.
Unanimous. Back to the town administrator report?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the end of it, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
that was it?
Yeah.
That must be.
Department communication.
Departmental communications. Fire and EMS. Good? Police.
Just real quick, on Friday, January 17th, our officers, along with the task force and the SWAT team, executed a search warrant on Oxford Ave. As a result of the investigation, 44 grams of crack cocaine, over 4 grams of fentanyl, 17 grams of suspected cocaine, and 5 grams of marijuana laced with fentanyl was seized. Also, a stolen motor vehicle was seized at that property, and the investigation was spearheaded by Sergeant Remillard and 4 officers: Officer Master Giovanni, Officer Smith, Officer Dylan Rini, and Byron Lara. And we had an issue in that neighborhood with drugs. The officers took led the investigation 2-3 weeks, executed a search warrant, and give them a lot of kudos because that was one of the bigger busts that we had in a while. Now, hopefully, the court system will do their job to make sure that that problem stays away from there. But just wanted to bring that to the attention. We don't have a detective, so all this work was gathered by patrol officers on overtime, and worked out great for us.
Chief, and that's a well-known problem address.
That's the, I believe, either 3rd or 4th search warrant we've hit in 3 years. Same apartment. So we're going to be reaching out to the landlord to correct the problem, or we might take some action against them.
All right, thanks, Chief. Tell the guys, good job. Any questions for the chief? Mr. Gasky.
I'll let you know, we're gonna be down to 4 guys. Highway Department coming Friday. I do have 1 seasonal guy working, plus we have 1 buildings and grounds guy. One of our guys is gonna be going over to the sewer department to fill a vacancy, so we are gonna be short-handed.
Yeah.
Highway Department again.
1 guy left too, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna have four full-timers. We have 1 buildings and ground guy, and I have 1 seasonal guy that I have, the Highway Department now. And,
What's your complement? What's the complement? Supposed to be like you and 8 other guys or something?
yeah, we used to have like 10.
Yeah.
Our backhoe lost a transmission, and it's at CAT getting fixed right now, and it's roughly gonna be a little over $45,000 to fix. And I gotta fix it. I'm gonna be trying to take some money out of some state money we have, some fair share money, because I have no money in the budget to repair it, and it's a necessity that we have our backhoe fixed.
It's a frontline piece of equipment too, get a lot of use.
Yeah, it's we only have 1 backhoe, so we need it fixed, so it's in the process of getting done right now.
Mr. Johnson.
Through the chair, are the jobs posted yet for the replacements, or is it?
I can't post anything yet because technically I have to keep it open for 90 days in case, with the union contracts, in case he wants to come back. So it's kind of the wrong time, but George is working with me. If there is a snowstorm, I will have him for plowing. I do use some of the other guys from their department for plowing also. So he will, if there's a storm or something, we will work it back and forth. So I do have one of the sewer guys, the other sewer guy, and George said if he needs to be, he'll help me too. But hopefully it doesn't snow anymore. So.
Any questions for the superintendent? Water sewer. Speaking of George.
Good evening. Yeah, we'll definitely help MJ out whatever he needs, even equipment or whatever thing, we'll provide him. We had a rave go out the other day on cold weather, issues with plumbing and piping in the houses. I'd like people to heed that warning because so far this year hasn't been too bad of cold, but even 1 or 2 days of cold can really affect the indoor plumbing. You get a windy day, it's not that the temperatures decrease or anything, it's that the wind gets the cold air into the houses, into the basements. Some of them are fieldstone foundations, which affect the plumbing and freeze it up. So I'd ask everybody to make sure they know where their water shutoff is in their homes, can get access to them, because a lot of times they get junk piled around them and they can't get to them. They have an idea that every bit of the house where there's plumbing located is properly heated. If it's not, and they can't ensure that it's properly heated, that they let the water run light rate, one of the sinks that's out of the way, for the duration of the cold spell, so that the water keeps moving. So just some helpful hints. We've been lucky so far, but we're not out of the woods yet. So, thanks.
Thanks, George. Sarah, you good tonight with everything? Would the ladies from the FAA have anything to add?
I don't, no.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Board member comments. Mr. Johnson.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Landry.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Shames.
I just wanted to say thank you to the town hall employees that are trying so hard to work as a team. Obviously the finance team, but it's really heartening to hear that there's a lot of collaboration going on between sewer and highway. There usually is, but I just wanted to call it out and say thank you for playing nice in the sandbox. I know it's not always easy, so thank you.
Mr. Siganowicz.
Collaboration's key. We need more of it. I agree. So.
I just want to thank the Camden folks for coming in. They had done a presentation for town officials about a month ago, maybe you were here. And Mr. Gumper's been very upfront with everything. They communicate with our office at least no more than every couple of weeks, I bet. And more importantly, I want to thank the residents for coming in. A lot of good questions. I liked it. It was very civil. There wasn't a lot of evil discourse or whatever you want to call it. So I appreciate them coming in. And if you're still listening at home, we're going to try to get that information up online. We don't have a planner right now, which would have most of that information. So we're going to figure it out. As Mr. Ruda said, we've got it, we'll give it. Mr. Johnson.
It goes back to the discussions about how to communicate better, right? So we heard something from Mr. Ituri today. He doesn't have Facebook, right? We've tried to get information out onto Facebook, information into the Webster Times, information into different venues, and sometimes you still swing and miss, or sometimes people miss things. So maybe it's also a good idea to repeat it. I'll send him the 2020 presentation. It was the YouTube video. Yeah. We might just have to start it again, right? Because they even said the project's it's taken a long time, right? And some of the things they're saying, like, oh yeah, and I have to remind myself that was a conversation 3 years ago in some cases. So maybe we send it, get it out of here again, different venues like we did last time.
And I'm going to say too, at the time, I know Chief Karlowitz said something about Facebook, but I'm pretty sure we had an public update from Fire and EMS about the dynamite situation, because there was like 3 fire trucks there, and it generated, again, social media and the old-fashioned way. People were like, what's going on? Is the mill on fire? And they were there with the state police to remove it. Yeah. So I think, I agree. Maybe we can do a little bit better job, but I know it was more than just Facebook
And sometimes you just
miss it.
you miss it, and then you hear about it 2 years later, and you're very surprised and upset.
Right.
Dragging up here.
No, you could have stayed there.
I brought it up during departmental communications after it happened, but again, we asked the question to the state police, and they didn't think it posed a threat. I'm not gonna cause a panic for nothing. They suggested that we just remove it. One of them walked in there and walked out with it, so, and then it was disposed of properly in a sand pit. And the ordinance was controlled explosion, so we're not going to tell the public if we're advised not to. I don't want to instill panic for no reason. And I did bring it up at the departmental communications the next meeting after it took place.
Right, no, I remember that. Everybody good?
Motion to adjourn.
Assistant Town
Second.
Administrator,
Sorry.
you good?
Sorry.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.